Whisperwood National Forest wasn't on any tourist maps. It was a green blur on the edge of the state, a place people knew more from rumor than from hiking trails. For Liam, Chloe, Ben, and Maya, it was the perfect challenge, an escape from civilization, a chance to reconnect with nature and each other. They made camp in a clearing bathed in the soft light of dusk, the air crisp and smelling of pine. The only sound was the crackle of their fire and their own laughter. It was on the second day that they found it. While searching for firewood near the roots of a gnarled, ancient oak, Chloe stumbled on something hard. Curious, she dug through the damp earth and leaves, uncovering a corner of dark, polished wood. Together, they unearthed the object, a music box. It was antique, crafted from a dark rosewood with intricate carvings of vines and birds that seemed to writhe under their fingertips. There was no key, but as Liam picked it up, the lid clicked open. Inside, faded red velvet lining cradled a tiny brass ballerina. With a groan, the ballerina began to turn, and a melody unwound into the forest quiet. It was no lullaby. It was dissonant, full of unexpected notes that seemed to hang and then tumble into one another. It was eerie, yet strangely captivating. They listened until it finished, the silence that followed seeming heavier than before. "That's bizarre," said Ben, the group's skeptic, forcing a laugh. "Who buries a music box in the middle of nowhere?" Maya, who was always more sensitive to atmospheres, hugged herself, despite the warmth of the fire. "I don't like it," she whispered. "The music, it felt sad, lonely." That night, no one slept well. Liam dreamt he was running through the forest, chased by the sound of a distorted melody that echoed from every direction. Chloe woke in a cold sweat, swearing she could hear the music playing faintly outside the tent, even though the box was closed and packed in her bag. By morning, a thick, unnatural fog hung over the camp, muffling sound and turning the trees into ghostly sentinels. Chloe, an amateur musician, couldn't get the melody out of her head. "There's something about it," she said, retrieving the box. "It's not random. It's a pattern." She played it again, recording the sound on her phone. As she listened back, she tapped her fingers on a log, her eyes widening. "No way," she muttered. "These aren't just notes. They're durations, long and short." Ben rolled his eyes. "Oh, come on, Chloe. It's just a creepy old song." "No, listen," she insisted, turning up the volume. "It's Morse code. The pauses, the length of each note. It's a message." The realization hit them all. The air grew cold. They huddled around the phone as Chloe played the melody over and over, scribbling down the dots and dashes in a notebook. Letter by letter, the message began to form. The first words to emerge were, "Do not listen." A chill ran through the group. They continued, driven by a mixture of fear and fascination. "The melody is a trap." Ben stopped scoffing. His face was pale. Maya began to cry softly. The message went on, each word a hammer blow of dread. "It loops, never ends, trapped us here." The final phrase made their blood run cold. They looked at each other, silent terror passing between them. "It's us," Liam whispered, his voice hoarse. "It's warning us. Somehow, it's us from the future." Suddenly, the music box on the log began to play on its own, the melody now louder, clearer, almost taunting. They tried to smash it with a rock, but the wood wouldn't splinter. They tried burying it, but the music played on through the dirt. Panic set in. They broke camp in a frenzy, throwing everything into their packs. The trail they had come in on was gone, swallowed by the fog. Their compasses spun wildly. Their phones had no signal. The only constant was the music, which now seemed to be inside their heads. It was a persistent echo they couldn't shake. They ran, tripping over roots and branches, but the forest seemed to curl in on itself. After hours of desperate running, they burst into a familiar clearing. Their own. The fire was still smoldering. The music box sat there, waiting for them, playing its horrific song. It was then that Maya screamed, pointing to the trees. For just an instant, they saw them. 4 figures, gaunt and translucent, watching them from the edge of the woods. Their faces were their own, twisted in silent agony. They weren't ghosts. They were echoes. Echoes of what they would become. The truth hit them with the force of a physical blow. The box wasn't a warning from the future. It was the trap itself. The forest, or some ancient entity within it, didn't time travel. It fed on despair. It took the fear and regret of its victims and spun it into a lure, a self-fulfilling prophecy of a melody that drew the victims to their fate. By listening, by deciphering, they had closed the loop. The despair they felt now was what fueled the next iteration of the song. They were the source of the message that had doomed them. The days blurred into one endless twilight. Hunger and thirst became dull aches, overshadowed by the ceaseless torture of the melody. They stopped running. There was nowhere to go. They sat around the fire that never went out, captives of a song. They started to hear whispers on the wind, fragments of their own future conversations, warnings they would give themselves. Their bodies grew weaker, their spirits fraying, until they were little more than husks, their empty eyes reflecting the endless forest. And eventually, they began to hum, unconsciously at first. Then, as a compulsion, they added their own sorrowful voices to the melody, harmonizing with the music box, refining the song of despair. They became the next verse in the forest's endless song, waiting in the clearing forever until the next group of adventurers lost their way and stumbled upon the roots of an ancient oak, ready to hear the beautiful, sad melody that awaited them. This story was a presentation from Shadow Tales.